All You Need Is Love, from Chagall to Kusama and Hatsune Miku. Love, the root of humanity, the most universal of themes. It spans all ages and cultures, and artists of all types have been inspired by it in different ways. As we celebrate the 10th year since the opening of Mori Art Museum, we draw your attention to this, a theme that is important to everyone: love. When we talk about love, we often think in terms of romance, but when we look a little deeper, we see that love is a concept much more varied, much more complicated, and much more intangible. To explore the various forms of love, this exhibition presents around 200 works by 70 artists and artist groups under 5 different themes. From classics of art history to ambitious new works of the modern day, all transcend both time and place, and we are made aware once more about how rich and complicated love truly is. If you would like an explanation on how to use the audio guide, please press the I button. Jeff Koons, Sacred Heart. This enormous present-like work is titled Sacred Heart. As its name suggests, it seems to be enveloped in a divine light, a testament to the reality of love. But looking upon it, one can't help but feel a certain falseness in the depiction. The artist who created this piece, Jeff Koons, is known for reinterpreting daily materials as works of art. This piece was inspired by the boxes of chocolate often seen in shops, and it is one work in his Celebration series, which all depict the cheap consumer goods seen at birthday parties, on holidays, and at commercial events. A 2-ton mass of polished stainless steel has been made to represent chocolate wrapped in gold cellophane. Koons rejects the idea that his art holds any specific meaning and believes that it can only be interpreted through the values and interests of the viewer. Of course, the heart-shaped gift is a symbol of love, and in being expressed in such a large form, it begins to take on and present various meanings to the viewer. Through artists who use symbols of love in their work, in the first part of our exhibition today, we ask the fundamental question: what is love? Love is expressed as the word itself, as depictions of hearts, in pink hues, and various other forms depending on period, place, and person, allowing the viewer to give the works their own interpretation. Robert Indiana, Love. Here we see big red letters spelling out the word love over a blue and green background, and the letter O is placed on a slant among the brilliant colors. Robert Indiana is one of the representative artists of American pop art, incorporating into his work the symbols and words that epitomize 1960s American culture. Of all of his work, his Love series is one of the most important collections of post-World War II American artwork. The catalyst for this series is said to be the words, "God is love," a phrase he learned at church when he was a boy. The vibrant red, blue, and green apparently comes from his memory of the red and green sign at the gas station his father worked at, set against a blue sky. In the 1960s, when the work was created, the piece resonated with the love and peace that symbolized 1960s counterculture. Nishiyama Minako, The Pinku House. This installation is a pink explosion of curtains, bed, carpet, and other furniture. Hearts, symbolic of love, ribbons, and floral patterns can be found everywhere. The room might be described as kawaii, which means cute in Japanese, perhaps even as girlish. But we can't help but also get the feeling that it is a model of a cheap, flashy motel room designed for romantic rendezvous paid by the hour. Since the late 1980s, Nishiyama Minako has been creating bold 3D work and installations that explore Japan's kawaii culture and the way it is consumed. This work is representative of her early period, and the pink interior is a life-sized allusion to a dollhouse from a popular doll series in Japan called the Rika-chan House. It seems to be less a statement of cuteness than it is of a young girl exclaiming, "Look how cute I am," in an almost grotesquely overblown expression of the narcissism of young girls. Yakushimaru Etsuko, Manabe Daito, Ishibashi Motoi, Sugano Kaoru. Love +1+1. Please go up to the microphone and say something about love. You will then hear a love song with your words in the title. This unique project was produced through a collaboration between musician Yakushimaru Etsuko and digital media artists Manabe Daito and Ishibashi Motoi, with the additional assistance of Sugano Kaoru, who works in the advertising industry and is involved in data analysis research. On display here is an entirely new work created for this exhibition. The song lyrics are displayed in front of us, but how can our words of love be recreated in song? Manabe Daito explains the process as follows. We made one enormous database. Words that had a close association with the words input by the user were chosen from the database, and they are brought together into a single love song. That is then played back with Yakushimaru Etsuko singing the vocals. Manabe says that as thinking about love is usually an extremely subjective action, he wanted to create a process by which it could be considered more objectively. Movement and music are really quite abstract things. When you think about where something like the movement of love is born, I think it's mostly from the act of courtship. So can this be heard as a melody or melody of love? Does it sound like a melody of anger? Who is listening to that melody? How and where? Now that it's underway, I hope that this project can help us visualize and consider the different images of love that people have. I would like the users to just say whatever comes into their head, whether it's something deeply personal and private, or something about their favorite toy, their old school, or of course, something about their family or partner. Francis Picabia, Portrait of a Couple. Here we see a couple snuggling together, smiling ever so slightly. Behind them, another couple playfully tries to grasp hold of a branch on a flowering tree. The couples both have an elegant air about them, like film stars, but the composition seems somehow unnatural. Exactly what sort of love story is the painting telling us? This is actually an oil-painted reproduction of a collage of images clipped from magazines and photographs. It is the work of early 20th century painter Francis Picabia, who, throughout his life, moved from style to style, constantly challenging himself to find new forms of expression. As the images have been clipped from photographs, the couple's relationships are unclear, giving viewers the freedom to use their own imagination. Section 2 of our exhibition today is presented under the theme of A Couple in Love, through works that express the mutual feelings of two people. Marc Chagall, Above the Town, Vitebsk. Winter Night in Vitebsk. Here we take a look at two works by an artist representative of 20th century art, Marc Chagall. The first painting was created in 1915 when Chagall was about 28 years old. It depicts two lovers floating above Chagall's hometown of Vitebsk. The man embraces the woman gently, and the woman's hand is opened wide, as if she is expressing a feeling of overflowing joy. Chagall returned from Paris to his home country of Russia in 1915 and married his girlfriend of 6 years, Bella. This painting was created soon after the wedding, and it seems to communicate a feeling of wedded bliss. Please move on to the next painting. The second painting was created 32 years after the first. Snow falls gently over Vitebsk as a couple rides a red horse through a dark, silent night sky. Below them, the church, houses, and rest of the town buildings are covered in a blanket of white snow, blocked off from the rest of the world by the fierce winter cold. Chagall was Jewish, and in 1941, with the German army already occupying Paris, he and Bella sought refuge in America. But only a few years later, while still in exile, Bella was afflicted with a viral disease and passed away. Chagall holds Bella close in her white bridal veil, and he seems to quietly look over his town, destroyed by the invading armies of the Nazi regime. They return to the same stage and fly high over the town of Vitebsk, but in this work we can get a sense of the artist's grief at losing his beloved wife. Being in love with another, being consumed by love. In these two paintings, we are made to feel the unchanging power of love, an emotion which crosses borders of space and time. The Genji Monogatari Emaki, reproduction. Of all the Japanese tales of love, perhaps the greatest of all is the tale of Genji, written during the 11th century Heian period by Murasaki Shikibu. It is a story of love and conflict spanning 70 years, beginning with the main character Hikaru Genji, and ending with his grandchildren, and even modern-day readers find the story evocative. On display here is a copy of an early 12th century work designated a national treasure in Japan, the Genji Monogatari Emaki, or the Tale of Genji picture scroll. It is the oldest surviving example of a Tale of Genji picture scroll, and these pieces replicate the actual condition of the real scroll as it looks today. These three pieces come from volume 49, titled Yadorigi. In this story, the main character is Kaoru. He never gets over the loss of his beloved Oikimi at a young age and searches for a shadow of that loss, for love, for marriage, and we see how Kaoru's life begins to mirror that of Hikaru Genji in the past. Please move to the other side of the case. The three scenes here come from volume 36, titled Kashiwagi. Genji's wife, Ona-san no Miya, was much younger than him. She had an affair with Kashiwagi, the eldest son of Genji's best friend, Tono Chujo, and their infidelity led to the birth of a boy, Kaoru. Ona-san no Miya suffered such guilt at her transgression that in the end she decided to become a nun. Think about how the courtiers of Japan 1,000 years ago, men and women alike, would have reacted to this epic 54-volume tale of love. We can see how the very concept of love, both in the distant past and in the modern day, lies at the heart of what it means to be human. Gohardashti, Today's Life in War. Here, a newly married husband and wife sit in a wrecked car decorated with ribbon. A tank looks over the sweeping wilderness in the distance. Please continue down the display. It seems like the couple have taken up residence. In the second photograph, a tank points its gun towards the camera in the desolate wasteland, and in front of the tank, the couple sits eating dinner at a round table. In apparent disregard for the tense situation, their expressions reflect nothing of the scene. The woman talks into a mobile phone she holds in one hand as the man stares fixedly at her. They seem to be doing no more than enjoying a dinner at a cafe, and in the distance, another tank moves across the land. The other photos show the couple hanging laundry on barbed wire and watching television within a sandbag bunker. The couple seems to be living in this wilderness, crisscrossed by passing tanks. The four photographs here are from Gohardashti's photo series, Today's Life in War. Dashti was born in Iran in 1980, the year the war between Iran and Iraq broke out, and her work deals with life and social problems in modern Iran through photographs and video. As war is waged around them, they are unperturbed, living their lives as if what they do is normal, and in that we are made to feel just how strong their bond is, how unshaken. Through these works, Dashti seems to be trying to show a newly married couple and a new form of love as they exist in modern Iran. Sophie Call, Take Care of Yourself. On display in this room are a number of photographs, pieces of text, and symbols of and by women. Among their number are included an advertising agency director, a Talmud scholar, a philosopher, a graphic designer, a composer, a fortune teller, a psychoanalyst, a curator, an accountant, and more. Exactly what is written here. This work is the result of a breakup email from a boyfriend. At the very end of the email, he wrote the words, "Take care of yourself," and the artist took it literally, sending the email out to other women and asking for interpretations and analyses of this email she received in order to help herself heal. This unique project was shown at the 2007 Vienna Biennale and attracted great interest and included 107 women from various professions and with various skills. 22 entries from the full work are on display here, including some more amusing analyses from a parrot and from a puppet. Sophie Calle is a French conceptual artist who often incorporates her own personal experiences as themes in her work, and she entangles others in her piece through setting a single parameter that must be followed. Through this project, that process allowed her to gain a more objective understanding of her own heartbreak, allowing her to forget the grief she felt for that lost love. If love truly is a fundamental human instinct, then the loss of love must be accompanied by terrible pain and sorrow. In Section 3 of our exhibition today, we take a look at works that deal with the anguish and sense of conflict felt at the deprivation of love under the theme Love in Losing. John Everett Millais, Speak, Speak. This painting is said to be of a scene from an ancient Roman tale. According to Millais' son, a man has been reading through the night the letters of his lost love, and at dawn, behold, the curtains of his bed are parted, and there before him stands, in spirit or in truth, the lady herself, decked as on her bridal night, and gazing upon him with sad but loving eyes. The woman seems to be half dream, half real, and she glows with an eerie light, and we are made to understand that the man, afire with love, is close to madness. The painting is the work of John Everett Millais, a member of an art reform group of young artists called the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, which was founded in London in 1848. The members of the group enjoyed portraying so-called femme fatale, the women who lead men to their ruin, and this type of female image even had an influence on Japanese literary giant Natsume Soseki. People are sometimes driven to madness by the agony of lost love, but in that madness there is also a sweet sense of euphoria at being granted a taste, even if just for a moment. Frida Kahlo, My Grandparents, My Parents, and I, Family Tree. This painting is a self-portrait by Frida Kahlo titled My Grandparents, My Parents, and I, Family Tree, that shows the artist's lineage. The naked young girl standing in front of the building at the center of the scene is Kahlo. Behind her are her parents, and perhaps the unborn child connected by umbilical cord to her mother is also a depiction of Kahlo herself. Frida Kahlo was born in Mexico in 1907. Her mother was of Mexican birth, and her maternal grandparents can be seen above the cacti growing in the earth on the left side of the painting. Her father was a Jewish German immigrant, and her paternal grandparents can be seen above the ocean on the right of the scene, showing that those roots were originally planted overseas. The year before this painting was created, the Nazi Party enacted laws in Germany requiring racial background checks back 2 generations and forbidding interracial marriage. In the figure of the young girl, we see a dignified admission that she is of mixed blood, and in that we can feel the strength of her belief in her objection to the Nazi mentality. Family is the first real community we ever belong to, and in that small community there exists an almost fateful sense of love. In Section 4 of our exhibition today, titled Family in Love, we take a look at a series of family scenes and the complicated entanglement of love and hate we find there. David Hockney, My Parents. In an orderly laid-out room, an old couple sits quietly. This is the work of David Hockney, and following the title My Parents, It is thought to be a depiction of his own parents. His father, who apparently fidgeted constantly as he sat, reads a book by American art critic Aaron Scharf titled Art and Photography. His mother sits elegantly in her seat, looking silently toward us. This painting was created in 1977 when Hatsune was around 40 years old, 1 year before his father passed away. It is thought that on the shelf are volumes of a book by Marcel Proust called In Search of Lost Time, said to have been a favorite of Hatsune's since he was young, and beside them is an art book on Chardin, an 18th century French painter. In the mirror we can see a reflection of a piece by Italian Renaissance painter Piero della Francesca called The Baptism of Christ. Apparently at the time Hatsune created this painting, he had a great interest in classical work. In this painting of his parents, the inclusion of so many of the things that Hatsune loved seemed to communicate just how important his family was to him. Zhangjiagang, Bloodline Series. This work is titled Bloodline, Painter with Mother as a Young Woman, and it comes from a series by Chinese artist Zhangjiagang called Bloodline, The Big Family. The catalyst for the Bloodline series was Zhang's accidental discovery of a number of old photographs in the family home. Zhang's mother suffered from mental illness after her experiences during the Cultural Revolution, and when Zhang saw those photographs of his young, beautiful mother when she was still well, he found himself deeply inspired. In the painting, a young woman, perhaps an allusion to the artist's mother, stands quietly in the slightly dark background looking towards us in front of the artist himself as an adult. The man's face is highlighted in yellow, except for a white patch on his left cheek. 2 more works from the Bloodline series can be found on the wall on the left. Please make your way over there now. These paintings, each of 3 people in a face-on pose, are reminiscent of traditional family photographs taken in a studio. However, the subjects are without expression, and the scenes themselves are somewhat disturbing. During the Cultural Revolution of Mao Zedong and his followers, Zhang's parents were sent to a re-education camp. Zhang too was sent to the countryside to become a farmer at 14 under a policy that sent people to live and work in rural areas in order to create a more collaborative socialist state. Zhang looks upon the state as something similar to a giant family. In the figures of the family and that idea of the inescapable national family group, we are given a sense of solidarity at the same time as we feel the danger that, at any moment, it could crumble apart. Asada Masashi, Asada Family. A family stands behind the counter of a ramen restaurant, and you can almost hear them calling out orders to each other. In the foreground, the cheerful face of the mother conveys a sense of the restaurant's success. Look below that, on the other hand, and the scene changes completely, with the whole family now riding in an election campaign van. The younger son appears to have donned the white sash of a candidate and is standing for election. In the car, the elder brother holds the steering wheel. On the back seat, the mother acts as the Nightingale girl, announcing the candidate's name over the van's loudspeakers. And beside her, the father smiles and waves to passers-by. This set of photographs, called the Asada Family Series, was taken by Asada Masashi, who set up situations in which he and his other family members, his mother, father, and elder brother, were engaged in a variety of occupations and activities. Asada says that the idea for this series came from an assignment he was given when he was at photography college to express himself in a single shot. A question completely different from the original assignment arose within me, along the lines of, if you could only take one photograph in your whole lifetime, what sort of photo would you take? What sort of photo would you want to have? And that's why I thought it would be good to take a shot of my family. I come from a family of 4, me, my elder brother, mother, and father, and I thought that if I can have just one picture, I should also be in it. And if I took us just standing there normally, it wouldn't be the sort of once-in-a-lifetime shot I was after. I wanted to take a picture that would really capture the sort of family we were. The first photograph I shot was one that recreated a memory I had from long ago, and that was the beginning of the Asada family series. That was the first event, if you like. I was 21 at the time. Asada completed 12 photographs on the theme of shared family memories as his graduation assignment. But after that, he had no other particularly powerful recollections, and for some time he was unable to shoot any more scenes. This prompted him to turn his attention to the future. I suddenly realized that I was taken up too much with memories of the past, so I began to think, what about the future? What would it be like if my family started a band? I figured that future me could exist, so that's why I tried settings like the whole family taking part in an election or becoming firemen. The existence of one's own family, something that is so close to us that conversely we often lose sight of it. While skillfully making use of fiction, Asada teases out the potential of what family can be through real-life images of his family performing in imaginary situations. Well, in a sense, it became a bit like a family tradition. As we all work in different places, the only times we can meet are New Year, the long bank holiday in spring, and the Obon festival in August. All of us feel a sort of pride in taking part, and so it's still continuing. We all seem to be thinking if we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Let's make a good job of it. The Asada family series started off with just the 4 of us. Now we've doubled in number, and there's 8 of us. With even just one child taking part, it's totally changed how the shoot is done, and I'd like to keep on photographing that kind of change in my family. Laurie Simmons, The Love Doll Series. This series of photographs shows a life-size doll playing the role of a young woman engaged in normal, everyday activities. In one, she lies on a cushion, seemingly lost in thought. In one, she lies by a window in bride's clothes, as if waiting for her Prince Charming to arrive. And in one, she seems to be trying all of her jewelry and accessories at once. The entire series seems to emanate a sense of the sweetness, the danger, and the sadness that surrounds the life of the American teenage girl. The scenes were created by Laurie Simmons using a high-class sex doll she bought in Tokyo's Akihabara district. She took the doll back to her home in Connecticut, USA, changed it into various clothing, and in these images the doll seems to be full of life, full of curiosity. The love doll, created only to satisfy male sexual longing, is reborn and provided with a new life through Simmons' loving touch. Love goes beyond the frameworks and constraints already in place and allows us to build bridges between ourselves and others completely foreign to us. In Section 5 of our exhibition, we take a look at love and the great variety of ways it can be expressed. Mori Junichi, Koma. Please look at the statue of Mary quietly offering up a prayer. Used as the material for the sculpture is a substance called masago, a type of lithothamnium algae which contains calcium. What is particularly striking is the way the light on the far side of the sculpture can sometimes be seen shining through, making the work appear translucent. The artist Mori Junichi has garnered attention for his unique expression as part of his pursuit of new potential in the medium of sculpture. In 2004, a sculpture project was held in the birthplace of Kitamura Seibo, who is particularly well known for his Peace Memorial statue in the Nagasaki Peace Park. As part of his research for the 2004 project, Mori visited the town of Minami Arima in Shimabara, and this led to the inspiration for the work on display here. As I was walking around researching this and that, I came across this lithothamnium, which they call masago down there. Wondering what on earth it was, I took it to the local town hall, where they told me it was masago, and that the only place it could be found in Japan was that area. I was thinking that this stuff exists in Japan, not only that, but in Shimabara, so I have to use it. I took it home with me and went into Nagasaki City where I was born and brought up, and as I was wandering around the Oura Church and Thomas Glover Mansion, places that are so familiar to me, I saw this statue of Mary. I lived in Nagasaki until I was 18, but I went to a high school called Kaisei next to Nagasaki, which is a mission school, and I often used to walk around Oura Church, and this statue left an impression on me. The inspiration behind this work was that I wanted to create something that combined what I had heard and saw in Shimabara with something that symbolized Nagasaki for me. Oura Church's official name is Oura Catholic Church, the Church of 26 Martyrs, and it commemorates 26 Catholics who were put to death during Toyotomi Hideyoshi's crackdown on Christianity in 1597, making them the first Japanese martyrs. The church was completed in 1864. Christianity was still a forbidden faith for Japanese at that time, so it was built for the French residents. The following year, when the building was opened, a group of hidden Christians from nearby Urakami visited the church and revealed to the French priests that they were Christians. The original statue of Mary, which the sculpture is based on, was presented by the French in response to the remarkable news that there were a lot of hidden Christians in Japan. To be honest, when I was making this sculpture, there was more despair than anything else. I don't think I felt things like love or hope making it. I remember coming back from Shimabara sort of burdened by the subject of Christianity, by the tragic history that Minami Arima has, and so I made this sculpture of Mary with a feeling of despair. Superimposed on the sculpture of Mary, created with substance that is a gift of Shimabara's natural world, is also an image of tragedy, both that of the history of Christian suffering and that of the atomic bomb. However, rather than feeling despair, perhaps the viewer can see a faint ray of hope emanating from the figure of the silent praying Mary. Alfredo Jaar. The Silence, A. The Silence, B. The Voice. This installation of photographs shows us images of a single old woman living in temporary housing in Ishinomaki City, Miyagi Prefecture. Under the glaring sunlight, the cheerful mural painted on the walls of the prefabricated housing seems only to emphasize the loneliness of the old woman even more as she walks along, bags in hand. Artist Alfredo Jaar visited the tsunami disaster zone in 2012, a year after the Great East Japan earthquake.
I was struck by the silence. I was struck by the solitude of the people living in these areas. And I thought that a society expresses its love or its lack of love in the face of tragedies. And I felt that this landscape of this temporary housing says a lot about how Japanese society is treating these people that were left without homes, that belong to some of the 300,000 evacuees from the emergency areas. So the silence refers to the silence of Japanese society in front of this tragedy, and the silence that I felt in this area populated mostly by old people that do not know anything about their future. So perhaps here it's not so much about love, but about the lack of love.
Please continue on to the wall on the right. This work, titled The Voice, shows all that remains of the Crisis Management Department building in Minami Sanriku, Miyagi Prefecture, after the tsunami. This building is famous as the place where Endo Miki, a local government worker, died while appealing to the townspeople to flee to safety.
The voice is an homage to Miki Endo, who lost her life with her voice, who lost her life asking people to leave their homes as soon as possible. And she did it for so long because she wanted to save as many people as possible. And because of that, she died. So it is a very simple image of this Bosaicho in Shizugawa. And it's an image taken at dawn when it's becoming night and you only see the shadows of this building where she lost her life. It's an homage to her, and it's an homage to the love she had for the people around her.
The outline of the building, with only its steel frame remaining, seems to be making us question just what is the love we have for our fellow humans, just what is the sanctity of humanity. Alfredo Jaar, Embrace. The previous room introduced work by artist Alfredo Jaar that looked at the disaster-afflicted area left behind by the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011. The work here, called Embrace, is by the same artist and was part of a mammoth project called the Rwanda Project, which he undertook between 1994 and 2000, focusing on the genocide that occurred there.
This project focuses on the genocide in Rwanda that left 1 million people dead in the face of the criminal indifference of the world community. In Embrace, you see two kids embracing. They show love, solidarity, pain, all the things that we, as the international community, did not express. So the camera focuses on these kids, and we realize that they're looking at a scene that is happening outside of the frame that we do not see and that you will never see. So instead of showing the victims, instead of showing the horror, I decide to focus on the body language of these children expressing love, something that we did not do as a world community.
As with his work on the disaster-stricken areas after the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011, Jaar always creates his work after visiting an area and seeing it with his own eyes.
I am a frustrated journalist, and every work of mine is based on research. And I have to do an enormous amount of research before starting to articulate ideas. So I feel responsible to be able to say something only when I have reached this amount of critical information. Because my modus operandi has always been the same. So only after I understand the world, I act. These images, these works, are done after I've understood what is happening.
When creating his work, Jaar says that he is constantly aware of the limits of photographs and video footage in the news.
What we call the news are only representations of reality. It is not the reality. And artists also create new realities with their work. The work is not the reality. So when you do research from a distance, you have a certain amount of information and then you confront it with the reality of the place, which is always more real, which is always different.
Ishikawa Mao, Hot Days in Okinawa. The photographs exhibited here are a portion of Ishikawa Mao's debut series, shot between 1975 and 1977.
I am an Okinawan, born in 1953 in Okinawa, raised in Okinawa, and still living in Okinawa. From the time the war ended in 1945 until it was returned to Japan in 1972, Okinawa was cut off from the rest of Japan, and it was under the control of the American military in a very difficult situation where the Japanese Constitution did not apply. Back then, if, for example, a 5-year-old girl was raped by an American soldier and dumped by the side of the road, or knocked down and killed in a traffic accident, the perpetrator would be out of the country and on his way back to America in no time. The local police could do nothing to stop it, nor could the Japanese government do anything to stop it. This unjust, unfair period lasted for 27 years, up until 1972. I really wanted to photograph the Okinawan Islands where this unfairness I witnessed was, to photograph these islands full of American soldiers. And when I got into high school, I decided clearly on my future path, and that was to become a photographer. So with the sense of photographing islands where I lived, I had this idea that Okinawa equals American bases, and American bases equal American soldiers. And if I want to shoot pictures of them, what should I do? Ah, I know. I'll work in a foreigner's bar reserved for U.S. troops. And that's how I started taking photographs for Hot Days in Okinawa, the series exhibited here.
Ishikawa is frequently introduced by saying that in order to learn more about the Okinawan problem, she decided to photograph U.S. troops, and to do that, she started working in a bar which was patronized exclusively by African American soldiers, but she herself says she resents this description.
I feel that when you people on the mainland use the word problem, when you wrap it all up into a neat bundle called the Okinawan problem, you're talking about it as though it had nothing to do with you. So for me, it's those actual words that I resent. I'm not looking at it from a political viewpoint like that. From the beginning, I just thought of shooting photographs of American soldiers, and it was like a TV crew turning up to someone's doorstep and asking to be invited in. So for me, I don't see the Okinawa problem as the political issue that people outside of Okinawa see it as. It's a phrase other people use. I just started taking pictures because I wanted to photograph the island I was born on. I am strongly critical of the U.S. military. But I really like the Tommies, the Smiths, and the Jimmies when they've changed out of their uniforms, when they've gone back to being normal American citizens. Among the Okinawans, there are some people who criticize the actual U.S. troops, but I attack the military. I get frowned at sometimes when I say that I hate the U.S. military but love the soldiers, but I think I'm making a clear distinction. The American soldiers I say I like are ones that appear in Hot Days in Okinawa.
Many of the photographs show the girls who worked at the bar. From them, the viewer can get a sense of the positive energy humans possess, which is in marked contrast to the stereotypical image of how Okinawans respond to the presence of the U.S. military in Okinawa.
When I was working at the bar, many of the girls there no longer had to work just to get by, but rather they liked black guys, and so they were working there while dating one. So I'd see the start of a pure, innocent love there. Put simply, I think that men and women can fall in love during even the most terrible war. We were talking about the Okinawa problem just now. But what's depicted here in these photographs universe is a pure love between men and women happening in a place completely disconnected from that problem. Because of this love, this very pure love between a man and a woman, because I encountered these strong girls who thought, what's wrong with loving a black guy? What's wrong with loving a soldier? What's wrong with working in a bar? What's wrong with living life as you want? That's where my focus went, and that's why I took so many pictures of the girls. These girls living without inhibitions, showing their power, their strength like that. That equals love, right? That's what I think love is.
Silpa Gupta. I live under your sky, too. I live under the same sky, too. These words, written in Japanese, English, and Urdu, flash brilliantly and repeatedly across the wall. Urdu is the language of Pakistan and is also used as one of the official languages of the Kashmir region in northern India. When the subcontinent gained its independence from the United Kingdom, it was divided into nations along religious lines, and India and Pakistan have engaged in repeated intense fighting over the Kashmir region since independence. Artist Silpa Gupta was born in 1976 in Mumbai in western India, the commercial capital of the country. In whatever country, in whatever conditions we all live under the same sky. At first glance, the sentiment seems simply a very romantic one, but in the radiance of the words, we can feel Gupta's strong conviction that love can transcend the endless fighting and conflict of our world. Kusama Yayoi, Love is Calling. Polka dot-clad objects project from the floor and the ceiling. The polka dots reflect in the mirrored walls and seem to multiply into infinity as the projections slowly change between 7 different colors. The sound of a person reading a poem can be heard throughout the room. It is a love poem written and recited by artist Kusama Yayoi called Living in the Castle of Falling Tears. The polka dots represent the earth, moon, sun, humanity, and all of the other things in the universe. Through allowing the endless repetition of and increase in the number of polka dots, the universe can be seen as the source of all things, and the self is obliterated. To Kusama, love is a theme that is eternal. Just as the polka dots multiply infinitely, so does the human capacity for love, extending from the love for oneself to love for another, on to love for humanity to all living things, expanding endlessly to encompass the entire universe. Thank you for visiting Mori Art Museum, and we hope you enjoyed our exhibition today. Love, romantic, familial, human. Sometimes entwined with hate and envy, sometimes leading to doom. It is able to transcend all conflict, and with the dawn of the Internet age, new forms of love appear every day. For as long as there are humans, there will be love. Thank you very much for using the Art in Part audio guide today. Please return the audio guide to the audio guide counter, which you can find to your right as you leave the exhibition. If you would like to get even more enjoyment out of the Mori Art Museum's contemporary art exhibits, you are most welcome to join our membership program. Members can always attend our exhibitions for free and receive various other benefits such as invitations to exhibition opening receptions, artist talks, and members-only parties. Members also receive discounts on art catalogs and in the museum shop. If you would like to know more, please take a pamphlet from the stand near the exit of the exhibition. We would be very happy to have you as a member. Please feel free to contact us. All You Need Is Love. From Chagall to Kusama and Hatsune Miku. Audio Guide. Planning and Production. Mori Art Museum. Art in Part. Narration. Chris Loprowski. Rachel Walzer. Interviews. Manabe Daito. Asada Masashi. Mori Junichi. Alfredo Jaar, Ishikawa Mao. Supervision, Mori Art Museum.